Hi, welcome back. We're looking at the core Agile practices from the Agile Practice Guide from the Project Management Institute and Agile Alliance. This one in particular is early and frequent feedback. When you're working on an Agile project or delivering in an Agile way, Agile projects will usually have short iterations. So these short iterations are usually time-boxed pieces of work from 2 to 4 weeks where you deliver something or showcase something for feedback. So by doing that, by releasing something in short cycles, what we're actually doing is enabling our project team to receive early and continuous feedback on the product quality throughout the development lifecycle. So in other words, if we were developing something and we had our scope figured out all the way up the front, and maybe there were like 100 or 1,000 pieces of scope for this thing, and then we developed it over a year, and we just sat in solitary confinement and developed this product over a year. And then at the end of it, we gave it to our customer and the customer said, "Oh, that's not actually what I wanted." This has happened so much, which is why Agile has grown in popularity. And if that does happen, then we sort of have to go back to the drawing board and maybe redo this part here and redo this part here, and the cost starts to go up. So by getting that frequent customer feedback, using iterations and delivering increments of work as the project progresses, Agile teams can incorporate most of those new changes into the product and also into their development process. Because at the end of these iterations, we'll usually have something called a retrospective. Now, we'll go into this in more detail, and it is exactly what it sounds like. We're retrospectively looking at what we did, what went well, what didn't go well, what we learned, and what still puzzles us. And by asking those questions of the process and the way that we're working, we can actually improve our way of working continuously at the end of each iteration as well, not just the product. So there are many benefits of getting early and frequent feedback, not just in an Agile way or an Agile delivery method, but actually throughout our lives as well. So first of all, we're avoiding requirements misunderstandings in the product. And this is simply because sometimes the customer may not actually understand or realize what they've asked for until they get their hands on it. And once they get their hands on it, they say, "Oh yeah, this was actually good," or maybe I needed something else, or maybe it actually wasn't exactly what they wanted at all now that they're seeing it. So by getting this frequent feedback, early and frequent feedback, then we're actually able to find these and fix them early in the development cycle instead of later when it's much more expensive to fix, as we saw. By getting early and frequent feedback, we're also clarifying our customer feature requests. So we're making them available for the customer to use early, little increments that they can see, feel, touch, and use. And by doing that, the product better reflects what the customer wants over time. As we sort of saw, sometimes it's hard to know exactly what you've asked for until you can see it, or maybe something changes once you can actually use it. It happens all the time. It's very common. When you've just written something down, it can be very different to holding it in your hands or physically using it. Now also, continuous integration in Agile. Discovering via continuous integration, we're isolating and resolving quality problems early. So what this means is continuous integration is often, on a daily basis, we're taking the branches of code, and this doesn't have to be for a coding product or a project. It could be for anything where you've got teams developing something. This team, you've got this team. Or it could be code, definitely as well. For the sake of this, we'll use code. And the branches of code are integrated into the one environment and then often regression tested, often automatically regression tested as well. So in other words, it's tested as a whole just to see if it has broken or not. So everyone can be creating things in isolation, but once they put things together, is it still working? We want to know from a quality point of view that we haven't broken anything by the things that we created. This means that an Agile team can improve its productivity and its ability to deliver because we're always knowing whether it's actually working or not often on a daily basis. And as we saw with the retrospective, we're promoting feedback into our process. So we're also promoting consistent project momentum because we're wanting to improve our process, we're wanting to improve the product in the customer's eyes, and all of those things just increase the momentum as we go along and make sure that we're not having to go back or we're not getting bogged down and we're always making things better. That is early and frequent feedback.